So, I've been playing Duet Scale for a while, and maybe you hear the drama that happened, maybe don't. Apparently, a lot of people didn't even know the game was out, so maybe you didn't even know anything. But if you don't know, Riot launched a fighting game called Duet Scale. At the start of February, they released a statement about it, and they said that they gonna cut their, I think it was half of their development team, which was major news considering that the game just didn't even have a month when finally launched their 1.0 and console release. So there was a lot of drama, let's say, around it, a lot of bad faith, I would say, a little bit. Like I said, I've been playing it for a while now. I started playing it when the open beta launched, and then I keep playing. Like I've been playing since the official 1.0 launch. So maybe you care to hear the opinion of a nobody. Like I heard a lot of opinions about the game from people who are into the fighting game community and into games. Like there was a whole lot of journalists or video game commentators that talk about the game and how, obviously not a good look when you have to cut your development team. So I have. But I want to talk about the game because, like I say, I've been playing it and I like the game. So maybe you care to hear something good about the game first. Because apparently a lot of people didn't even know the game was out, so what is Duet Scale? First of all, that's a horrible name. I think it was Project L before, the secret name, before it was released, and I think that's just a better name, but maybe it's just Duet Scale, it's a really bad name. It's a little bit unwieldy, I would say. But Duet Scale is basically League of Legends fighting game. Specifically, it's a tag game, so you choose two characters and you fight, and they are League of Legends characters, and it's been out for a couple of months, I guess, now. And one thing, it's free, so if you have an interested, you can go play it. It's out in consoles and in PC, so you can play it anywhere, and it's a fun game. Like it follows in the line of recent fighting games where it's a simple input game. Basically, you can do a special move with one button and easy to pick, hard to master kind of thing. So you can pick up and start playing and having fun. You're probably gonna hit a ceiling where everyone's gonna start beating the shit out of you, but before that, you might have fun. Now, if you maybe the only thing that you heard is that not even a month out and now it's a dead game because they cut their team and they go into a skeleton crew. So let's talk about it. The first thing is, like, just straight up, it's not a dead game. For what I heard, and I'm not an expert obviously, but like for what I heard, like they cut from 160 to 80 developers. For what I heard, that still a lot. So they probably were overstaffed before the launch, which was rocky and long and kind of a mess. So that probably cost them a lot, but still, apparently 80 developers is still quite a lot for a fighting game. So that's the first time that is not a that game. Two, like the lobbies are packed most of the time. Like I was playing the last days of the open beta before the console launch, and it was hard to get ranked matches. And now lobbies are packed, both ranked and unranked. Like that's good. Like you have always matches to play. So the reports of the dead are a little bit exaggerated. The game does have some glaring problems so far. We can talk about them. Like the main thing that a lot of people really point out is there's nothing besides matches. There's no single player mode, campaign, story mode. Besides training, it's only either ranked or online matches. So if you're not into that, that's a thing. The other thing is that a lot of people pointed is that technically it's a tag game. I talk about that a little bit, but like technically it's a tag game, so you always use two characters, and there's only 10 characters in total. So functionally, you only have 5 characters. But it's interesting to combine between characters and stuff like that. So that's a plus. But that could be a problem. But right before the announcement, they released another character, Kaylin, If you saw Arcane, you know Kellen. If you saw Arcane, you know a lot of the characters, actually. And then right after the announcement, there were some leaks about the next two characters, which are Senna and Kali. So there's still content projected for the game. It's not a skeleton crew. The game is fine in that regard. Another big problem is there's a clear difference between level powers. There's 3 characters, there used to be 4, but they shot Timo in the head, so it's a little bit nerfed. But there's 3 characters that are clearly more powerful if you know how to use them. They are a little bit complicated to use, like because they're heavy mix-up, but they are clearly the strongest characters. Up to a certain level, just start seeing only those characters in rank, for example, and you will see when a good players catch you because you're up to a world of horde, man. So that's a problem. Like they plan to. Apparently, there's plans to nerf at least a couple of them, like the big ones, Yasuo in particular. So there's like if you get annoyed playing against those characters, that could be a problem for you. But other than that, like I said, the game is fun. Oh, I will say, like, it does seem that it's stuck between 2 philosophies of gaming, because it's clear that they want it to be like a competitive game. It's Riot, like all their games are like esporty to a certain extent, so it's clear that they wanted this to be that. But the game is, like I said, it's kind of stuck between 2 philosophies, because it's also apparent that they wanted the game to be accessible. It's following the vein of modern controls, if you know Street Fighter. So you got one button specials. Also you got easy combo system. One it's I don't know how you call it, but it's a simple system where lights lock into mediums and mediums lock into heavies. And there's always a special finisher that you can do. So even if you don't know how to play a character, you can always do light, medium, heavy into special. Even more than that, you have a auto combo system, which you can use. You don't even have to think about timing. You can just press either like button 3 times. Even more, like if you use either the medium or the heavy a 4th time, you get a special finisher. So there's all these tools to make the game accessible. Even something else, for example, is that it's a tag game, but if you don't want to learn more than 1 character, you can choose to play in what is called a fuse. That is a way of playing. You have, I think it's 5 different fuses that give you different combination between tags, so you can extend combos and change characters and poke and stuff like that. Or you can use one of the 2 that allowed you to play only 1 character, so you don't need to learn another character. So the game has in it all these tools to make it accessible and easy to pick up. But also the game by nature, it's really, really hard to play. Like, it's so fast paced, and once you get in higher levels, if you don't use your tags properly, you're gonna get dumped. At high levels of play, a good player will erase you in a couple of combos, and also it wants you to experiment. Like I said, there's a bunch of different fuses, and each character has different moves that can get to a different combo routes. So the game is really granular if you want to do that. So it's definitely stuck into wanted to be a simple game for everyone, but then you get to a certain level and it's so difficult to play. Like, it's so demanding that can be generally could put you out. One other complaint that people have is that combos were too long, and probably it's because if you don't know what to do, you're gonna get destroyed by a good player in no time. So there's definitely another thing. But like I said, if you enjoy that and if you wanna learn a fighting game, like, this is a good one. Besides that, like I said, if you want my opinion on the game, it's a good game, it's free, and it's fun if you vibe with this type of game. So if you want to try it, you should try it. It's not a dead game, there's people playing, You can play with a friend. I think it's the first game ever that has co-op gaming. The only thing is you have to do it online. There's no two players couch, but they are working on it. They said that they are working on it recently, so that's coming. So if you have any interest in the game, don't let the comments of being a dead game scare you. It's not a dead game. Come, have fun, cry a little bit, hate Yasuo and Echo and Arik with us. But what I wanted to talk is that element of I actually should say this. I'm not an expert on fighting games. Like the only other game I have played or a little bit consistently was Grand Blue, and mostly because it was another free game. But I do have experience with what you could consider dead games, because I used to play a couple more that are considered dead games. And one specifically could be an interesting comparison because it was also from Riot. I used to play Legends of Runeterra, which, if you don't know what it is, it's a card game in the style of Hearthstone, but also set in the League of Legends universe. And that game, you could consider that went through the same process. They started cutting their development team, and then eventually they changed completely the focus of the game to be a more PvE oriented roguelike, which at that point is not my type of game, so I stopped playing. But to be fair, the game's still running, it's just not what it used to be. It's more on a PvE focus. The interesting part with it, I think, to be fair, like, it's such an interesting case because Legends of Runeterra didn't die because it was a bad game. It died because it was not a profitable game, and strangely enough, like it was really player friendly, because the reason why I played that game over Hearthstone or Magic or whatever other digital card game was, is that you don't need it to spend money on that game. Like, that game gives you cards like crazy, which made it really fun. The problem was that nobody spent money on the game, and ultimately apparently was unsustainable for the company. That led to cuts and eventually to the change of focus for the game, and that apparently make a lot more money. So that's a direct comparison to XKO. And the interesting part is that in all the Riot games, they use the same monetization system, right? Which is sell you cosmetics or things that don't have impact in the game for real money. And that's another complaint that, for example, people have with 2XKO. There's really expensive skins that you can buy, and they are only available for a certain time, so that's a little bit scammy too. If you don't like that, that's there. Sorry to tell you. But yeah, like, since LoL have been relying on this monetization system, and just simply sometimes doesn't work. Even if they made a good game for a player, like I said, it's not a good game that makes money. And another of my history of that games that I used to play was from Blizzard. It was Heroes of the Storm, which I used to play. It was my first MOBA, and I used to play it a lot, but eventually it happens the same way. Like, they announced that they're gonna cut their development team. That went into a skeleton crew, for what I know, and they have a competitive scene that they try to grow way too fast, and eventually they cut everything without even noticing the players or the teams. Like, they're just tell them, like, sorry, we're not gonna continue with this. And the game also basically still running, to be fair. Like, I've seen that people still playing. There's not so much change in the meta because there's like 3 or 4 patches by year, but the game's still running, but also had the label of that game. And that's interesting to point that, all these dead games still running, that's just normalized. And it's important to mention because in the case of 2XKO, in their announcement, they mentioned that they didn't reach the number they expect, so they had to cut the game to make it profitable, sustainable, I guess. But the interesting part is that I heard from people that apparently know about fighting games that they made good numbers for a fighting game. The interesting part, and why I find all this interesting, is that all these games that eventually are, live service games that eventually get the label of dead games, they're still running and they're still being played. But the big problem I think they have is that all these esport style games have an ambition of being the next big thing, right? The first example, for example, I think Heroes of the Storm somehow wanted to be the next League of Legends, and in the case of Legends of Runeterra, it will never be Hearthstone, and in this case, to what scale, it will never be Street Fighter 6. All these esport games come with really big expectations. And don't get me wrong, I get the ambition, but like, come on, you have to be realistic. Not every game can be the main thing. You have to fight for that public, and even though a lot of people are hyped for the game, like I said, I think it's a good game, and there's some people in the fighting game community that really like the game, so like that doesn't make you the big thing. You need to grow organically and you need time for that. But I think they overestimate how much people will translate to from League to SKO, or hell, even like something like Arcane. Arcane was huge, and it was reportedly that I remember seeing an article saying that technically was a failure because it didn't make that much money. Also, for Riot, they didn't saw an increment of League of Legends players, and but that's also a thing. Like, I think Riot doesn't know. They really like their universe, and to be fair, it's an interesting universe, but like it's not enough to pull people. So ultimately, the problem with this type of games is that developers are too eager to make it the next big thing, and they eventually fall flat in their faces because you can't grow a big thing like that out of nowhere. Right, and like I mentioned in these other cases, like eventually the game normalizes, and you get, if the game is good enough, you get a stable player base. It might not be what you wanted, but it's there, and for what it seems, it's enough to maintain the game. But companies don't like that, I guess. So I think the case study here is that you just need to have realistic expectation for your game, because the game is good, so just be realistic about it.
Not to be rushed.